Go to codefest.io. The schedule is there. The speakers are there. Their session descriptions are there. So please, this is going to be the event that you make it. If you're tweeting, please use Codefest 2014 and the WXT hashtags. I am Laura. He's reminding me. We haven't introduced ourselves yet. I'm Laura Wesley, and this is Laurent Goder. We work in the Web Standards Office. Laurent is a lead developer on WET and the lead of Web Accessibility Policy, and I'm the lead on the Web Usability Policy. Our boss is also here, but I think I'm going to turn it over to Laurent for a minute.
It has been an incredible year for the Web Experience Toolkit. Coming in Codefest 2013, we only had a pre-alpha product, proof of concept. We didn't have much. In the span of the Codefest, in a couple of months, with all of your help, we were able to launch the most stable, performant, and mature product we've ever done. Codefest. Thank you. Not only that, but Codefest 2013 really changed the way we work together. For the first time, we brought people across organizations and discipline to work together on solving problems. This has led to the creation of weekly Code Sprint that my colleague Paul Jackson here is leading, that anyone can come to help us work on these problems. Not only that, but as of version 4.0 of the Web Experience Toolkit, we can truly say that the Web Experience Toolkit is living the open source model. We're no longer throwing code out there. We're part of the community. In the last year, the web community has provided a lot of contribution to several high-profile open source projects for the betterment of the Web Experience Toolkit, but also developer worldwide. If this is all we can do in 1 year in one Codefest, I'm really, really excited for what we can do here today and tomorrow and for the coming year. So I hope you all have fun. And I'm turning the microphone back to my colleague Laura.
And I'm going to introduce our new boss, Michel Laviolette. Come on up, Michel. He's the project executive for the Web Renewal Project and also the Director General of the Web Standards Office. Thank you, Michel.
I'm not sure who's the boss in the team, but we'll take that aside. Wow, what a turnout. Je suis très, très content, très excité d'être ici aujourd'hui. Comme Laura vient de mentionner, je suis tout nouveau dans l'équipe des standards web au secrétariat du Conseil du Trésor. C'est un honneur et un plaisir pour moi de me joindre à vous aujourd'hui. So, as my area in Treasury Board Secretariat, the Web Standards Office is sponsoring Codefest 2014. This event is of crucial importance to me because Codefest will help us innovate in the Government of Canada. It's key. I'm also the project executive for... Hello? That was a test, wasn't it? I'm also the project executive, like Laura said, of the Web Renewal Initiative. You may have heard of Canada.ca. Codefest, I'll be attending a lot of the sessions over the course of the next 2 days. De ma perspective à moi, c'est très, très important d'être connecté avec vous, de voir le beau travail que vous faites et d'inclure ça dans notre mandat au secrétariat du Conseil du Trésor. Donc, le travail que vous faites va nous diriger directement dans nos efforts de Canada.ca. Donc, je vous remercie d'avance. It gives me great pleasure to introduce the first speaker of Codefest 2014, the Chief Information Officer of the Government of Canada, Madame Corinne Charette. Corinne has been the CIO of the Government of Canada since May 2009. During her year professional career, sorry, Corinne got me to scratch that off this morning. She served as a Senior Vice President International Internet Channel for the CIBC, has been a partner with KPMG Consulting, leading their e-business practice, and has worked for IBM Global Services. Corinne holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Engineering and an honorary degree of Doctor of Law from Concordia University in recognition of her distinguished career and achievements. Please join me in welcoming the Government of Canada Chief Information Officer, Corinne Charette.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci Michel. Thanks and good morning everybody for a very nice introduction and extremely diplomatic, especially on the XXX. So it's really exciting to be here today. C'est un plaisir énorme. Je suis vraiment désolée que j'ai pas pu être ici l'année passée. Last year I was only here on video and so it was briefer, but the energy in this room is fantastic. And by the way, hashtag c'est beau. C'est beau, B-O-E-W. What is c'est beau? WET, c'est beau. It's la boîte à outils de l'expérience web. So new acronym for us, WET, c'est beau. So, I think thanks to the organizers for hosting this in such a great facility here at Carleton. Every September, I have to tell you, it's only graduated a few years ago, I have trouble because I always want to go back to school, and it's hard that in September lots of young folks are going back to school, and we're in the same office routine. It is fun, but it would be nice to go back to school from time to time. Anyways, it's fantastic to be here and to launch this year's Codefest, and I have to tell you just from the beginning, je suis tellement fière de tout ce que cette communauté a déjà réalisé. I am so proud of what you've done so far, mais je suis persuadée que ce n'est que la pointe de l'iceberg. I really do think that what we've done so far, what you've done so far, is just scratching the surface of what this community is capable of. And, you know, frankly, it gives me a tremendous amount of joy and satisfaction. I brag to the secretary about it. I brag to the president of the Treasury Board about it. And I'm glad to see that we get bragged about as a community internationally and in the press as well. I would like to reiterate that Codefest is not just for developers. You don't have to know any coding to participate. C'est vraiment très soulageant. Ça fait très longtemps depuis que j'ai mis mes mains sur un clavier pour développer du code. So I'm sorry to say that I would not be a very good active collaborator. I'm an active supporter of the collaborators. But I want to thank everybody for coming out here, developers, policy folks, and supporters alike. And I want to thank you for your innovation and collaboration. So innovation and collaboration are two key words, but in thinking of this talk this morning, you know, can you really innovate by yourself? Is there such a thing as innovation by one person? Well, you can innovate in a small way by yourself, but true innovation is really built on successive innovations, achievements, hard work, advancement by communities. Gutenberg, the printing press, arguably a key innovation. He built upon a variety of developments before him, including paper, including the development of ink, and so forth. The steam engine, he built on the wheel, blah, 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 blah. The PC, the Apple, the Jobs-Wozniak collaboration, and that whole community of developers in Silicon Valley and engineers. So the key point here is that ideas come out of individual brains. Innovation is a result of successful collaboration by a community of folks, and the ability of a number of people, small or large, to get together and successfully integrate their ideas, challenge each other, merge them, knit them together. The power of that synergy, when it occurs, is really extraordinary, and that is what the SWET community has proven so far, and that is what I think we will continue to prove as we go forward together. So I am a real believer in innovation through collaboration. I think that you folks are the pioneers. Pour le gouvernement du Canada, je pense que la capacité de travailler ensemble, de collaborer, votre ouverture à cette façon de travailler. C'est une nouvelle façon. C'est une façon qui épaule la vision du greffier dans Destination 2020. C'est la façon qui dit, peu importe dans quel département on se trouve, doesn't matter what program area or department we're in or who our deputy or our ADMs are, we recognize engaged, talented people across the government. We share the same goal. Together, we're infinitely more powerful than we are individually. And if we can take this spirit, this emerging collaboration muscle that this community has developed and export it across the government of Canada, the sky's the limit. So this is the WET 5-year anniversary. I didn't realize we were that old already. Time flies. It was originated in 2009. First release was V2.0 August 9, 2010. It was originally named the GC Web template. The current name WET or BO was crowdsourced, so that's also very good. And its predecessor was the CLF template, which was a good piece of work, but a difficult acronym. J'aime beaucoup WET, c'est beau. There have been 38 releases of WET from V2 to V4, and that doesn't include all the alphas and betas that you've put out there in between. Je me souviens encore, en 2012, quand Perth est venu me voir et il m'a dit, Corinne, on doit se joindre au mouvement du code ouvert open source. And, we've been talking about open source, and of course, we've been using Apache, and we use a number of open source platforms in government. And, it really didn't, and I hope, Perth, you agree with me, it really wasn't too hard a sell. Frankly, I am not easy to convince on a number of topics, I confess. That's because the people around me are all a lot more brilliant than me, and I have to keep repeating until I get it. But he came up to me and he made the pitch to put the template and WET onto GitHub, and I thought, that's brilliant. And, we moved forward with it right away, and that has certainly been the beginning of an even faster acceleration. Aujourd'hui, l'organisation sur GitHub compte 116 membres, over 300 people when including the working groups. Et the repository, the main WET project area, is watched by 128 people, favorited by 549 people, and this is apparently a word in this community, and forked by 335 people. J'espère que je n'ai pas offensé personne en utilisant ce terme. On me dit que c'est un terme accepté dans cette communauté. So, and by the way, in early days, we used to joke about GitHub as giddy up. And giddy up, we've got to get going. And so that's coming along. So for today, we would understand if someone were to tell us that version 4.0, with version 4.0 of WET, it takes 80% less time to load and execute than previous versions, and the download size is 80% smaller than the previous versions, which is, of course, important for mobile. But it's more important than that. What this shows is that this community is not only innovative, but innovative in a practical, cost-effective, and efficient way. You are sensitive to the needs of the users, who are not going to want to sit around and wait for the little round circle to keep going. You're sensitive to the consumption, bandwidth, and whatever, CPU and so forth. So I think that that's very, very impressive. There have been 1,661 commits and 357,000 plus changes spread over 23 people in the last year. What a productive community. WET is being used on millions of web pages across the Government of Canada on canada.ca, which is the latest version. It's also being used on City of Ottawa website, A11YQC, or the Quebec Accessibility Conference. This is something else that this community has pioneered. I think we're world leaders in accessibility and the adoption of WCAG 2. Again, thanks to the efforts of this room. It's on OSACCAN, Open Source Alliance of Canada, Ontario Colleges.ca, University of Ottawa, the Nunavut General Monitoring Plan, and more. C'est vraiment extrêmement impressionnant quand on pense et on réfléchit sur ces statistiques et sur ces réalisations. In a report released publicly this year, IBM recommended to the City of Hamilton that the Web Experience Toolkit is the best fit for Hamilton.ca, and their report is available online. I certainly encourage everyone to go read it. This community has already been recognized, but I do think that that's just the beginning. Project won the Excellence in Public Service Delivery Award at GTEC 2012, the Share and Reuse and the People's Choice Award at DPI 2011, which is, of course, the Association of Public Sector Information Professionals. And as I mentioned, it's been featured in the press, Wired, GitHub for Government, Canadian Government Executive, Fast Company, Mashable. How many other federal efforts have been featured in Wired magazine? Pretty impressive, eh? I tell you, I started reading Wired magazine at the very beginning and still is quite the authority in innovation. So really, really great progress. Last year, after Ben Balter came to Codefest and learned about our project, he called WET the most collaborative open source project in government in the world, and he should know his role at GitHub is to support governments in these areas. So pretty impressive. This year, something even more incredible happened. By using third-party tools like Twitter Bootstrap, we have influenced the accessibility of private sector products. Hashtag Web c'est beau. Another important element, yeah, you're gonna, you know, this is my son. I have adult sons, and they remind me of the importance to speak in the vernacular of today. You know, hashtag, right. By opening our license for commercial reuse, we are enabling innovation to go even faster because, of course, open source is great, but sometimes you do need injections of capital to really spread your innovations worldwide, and that is done through commercial third parties that can see some revenue generating potential. So that has been fantastic, and we're very pleased with that. It's a great track record. So this is a fantastic community. You've taken a whole of government approach that I have long been espousing, and you've also included and integrated the private sector in this approach, which I've also been espousing. You are the leadership model for the future. Définitivement, cette communauté est l'exemple parfait de Destination 2020. Et vous êtes 6 ans en avance de Destination 2020. Donc, en 2020, qui sait où nous serons, où nous serions, mais ça serait, je suis sûre, encore plus avancé qu'on puisse imaginer aujourd'hui. So this brings me to the Web Renewal Initiative. Web Renewal for the Government of Canada is a big initiative, as you all know. Nous avions, avant de commencer, nous avions plus de 1500 sites web individuels. Before starting Web Renewal, we had, individually approximately 1,500 websites, and that's not across every federal government department or agency. It's just on the top 100, if you will, on Schedules 1 and 2. We're already making great progress towards this, and WET is part of that progress. Over the next 2 years, all of these departments will start consolidating their content onto the new Canada.ca. It's already started, but we are accelerating the pace. We have to make big progress in this calendar year. We've done so, but we continue to do so. And by December 2016, those 1,500 URLs will have been retired. The active content migrated to Canada.ca, which, by the way, is very slick, which loads on mobile platforms in a most elegant way. So we're very pleased about that. And we've had, we go through it with quarterly releases, but we would not ever have been able to put forward such an ambitious migration plan for Canada.ca with a traditional project approach that would have been based on the classic pyramid hierarchy, one department, one project manager, folks at this level, that level, that level. I mean, that, obviously hierarchies exist, and they exist for good reason, and they're very useful. But true acceleration can only occur when you get the kind of collaboration across departments that this community demonstrates. So this year, we want to use Codefest to really set the bar for the next stage of acceleration and evolution for the WED Experience Toolkit and for the application of Canada.ca. Donc, on a des plans ambitieux. This year's event is exciting. I'm sorry that I can't stick around and participate in all of it, but I will. I know it's being videotaped, donc je vais essayer de voir les autres présentations le soir puis la fin de semaine. J'espère qu'on va tous les filmer. So there are special guests, participant-led interactive sessions, a policy-focused design jam, which is going to be really interesting, and really there's content for everybody. There's content geared for both the technical, wet, hands-on community as well as for policy analysts in support of that. So certainly one of the main goals of Web Renewal is to make Canada.ca more user-friendly, i.e. users need to find what they need quickly, easily, and they need to find it at once without having to do repetitive searches and searching and filtering. And quality online services, by the way, is a key step in maintaining the trust of Canadians in their government. So it's not only about the obligation to post information online to keep Canadians informed, but our ability to do that well, to engage with Canadians, to present content on the platforms they're using, wherever they are, in the most effective way, content that reaches them, content that speaks to them, is helping to solidify trust in government, and that's critical. We have a great country. It's a wonderful place to live. We have a great government, and Canada.ca is a vital part of maintaining that. So now you are going to be able to participate in a lot of things over the next 2 days. You're going to hear from Jane Hazel, the DG in charge of Healthy Canadians website tomorrow. Is Jane here? Well, she'll be here tomorrow for sure. I want to congratulate them on the great work. Health Canada has done some great work, as well as a number of other departments. The amount of great work done already on the travel site, on Healthy Canadians, on Canada.ca by the department's leading themes and others contributing them is something else. So we're very pleased, and I myself am particularly interested to see the results of the policy jam that will potentially give us some interesting ways to help reduce the web of rules. Puis je ne connais aucun département qui n'est pas extrêmement anxieux de voir comment on peut réduire, optimiser, consolider justement notre environnement de politique et les règles qui les soutiennent. So there's a lot happening, but I want you to know that while there is a lot happening, I am sending out a challenge to this community today at the beginning of Codefest, and a challenge that I think will bring out that I'm sure this community will rise to, and that will help us quite a bit over the next year. So, as you know, we have a lot of websites, but not only did we start with 1,500 websites, we also have about 1,000 little web applications. So we call them web applications. These are not authenticated applications, so we're not talking about CRA and where you file your taxes, or your online account at Service Canada or at VAC or anywhere else. Those are what we call authenticated applications. We're really focusing in the initial phase of migration of web renewal on those 1,000 not authenticated applications that exist all over on these individual websites, although we will eventually get to the authenticated applications as well. And what we're trying to do is trying to migrate the best of these applications, consolidate, streamline, optimize, while we migrate content to Canada.ca. So what that means is that we will need a centrally managed presentation layer that all these web applications can use. And if we can do that, we can accelerate the publication of more applications on Canada.ca in different themes and different areas of the site, because we'll have that wet template and those wet tools and components to build from. So I think that this community is key to standardizing in this area and to driving us to the next level of productivity and migration with the work that you're going to do over the next 2 days and over the next 2 years. So how do we get there? Well, I've been reminded of John F. Kennedy's speech on getting to the moon. And he said that the future was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them, but was forged by those who move forward. So that is really what this community does constantly. And you do this, and you make the result of your hard work available free of charge to everybody on the planet that can harness it productively. So I am quite confident that over the next 2 days and over the next year that you will continue to mobilize in this regard. I'm anxious to see at what speed you actually meet this challenge. Je suis convaincue que vous allez relever le défi, que vous allez pouvoir adopter ou développer de nouveaux outils beaux qui vont nous permettre de justement standardiser et consolider la couche de présentation pour ces petites applications web et que aussi on va pouvoir partager ça sur GitHub avec la planète en entier. So for my part, my office will identify yearly goals, so I now have to go back to the office and think of an even better goal for next year. So I'll see you then at that time. But for the moment, this is a pretty good one, and I am sure that you folks will have fun. So 5 years ago when we started, WET was a difficult task. Au tout début, l'idée de standardiser, de travailler ensemble à travers des frontières départementales, c'était pas facile. We didn't even have a very extended, if you will, use of GCpedia. It wasn't necessarily easy to collaborate across departments 5 years ago. Today, we have to stop and we have to thank the pioneers who rolled up their sleeves and who really were the geniuses of collaboration, who said, you know, we can do a whole lot more together than we can do individually in our mini little teams. So I want to thank those people. And before I conclude, and I know I've talked to you too long, j'aimerais aujourd'hui souligner publiquement un de ces pionniers, vraiment le père du mouvement Beau à travers l'espace fédéral, c'est Perth Singh. Perth, j'aimerais que tu viennes te joindre à moi ici on stage. Perth has been an unwavering supporter for this movement, for WET, for CIOB, for usability. He's been fantastic. We had to let him, be promoted. We had to let him get new assignments in government. It wasn't easy. I've been sobbing for months at this prospect. Service Canada is very lucky. But folks, you know what? This is what public service is all about. Perth is a shining example. Public service, Destination 2020. Perth, félicitations. Merci et bon Codefest. N'oubliez pas, WET, c'est beau. Hashtag.
Thank you very, very much, Corinne, for taking your very valuable time to be here with us. Your support means a lot. And I think this challenge that you've given us is really going to help us take you to the next step. Our next speaker, Mario Benito, is working at Service Canada. He's the lead for the Canada.ca theme. And his session was one of the most popular ones in Codefest 2013. And it's kind of obvious why, because Mario is very, very excited about WET. And he's kind of a visionary. He's always thinking, how are we going to take this project to the next level? And a lot of the things that we are doing today is thanks to his vision and leadership. So I'm really excited to be introducing to you Mario Benito.
Hi everyone, how are you? Oh. Let me get set up here to see if we can start this up. All right. Do we have the presentation loading up? Just want to. What's that? Sorry? This mic doesn't work? Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. All right. Let me just see if we can get this started over here. Is this? Believe it or not, it was working when we started.
Is it just okay? While we're working on this, I'm gonna take this chance to introduce a bit what's going to happen this afternoon. Laura later will be speaking about the design jam and the persona workshop. But in the afternoon, we have for both days we have a code sprint. And what's a bit different about this year is we're actually running a small competition. On the website, there's a leaderboard, and there's a lot of tasks. Something that in the open source community we're calling bounties, which we get points for accomplishing high-value tasks that we need. Something to really bring
Now it's in now.
The project to the next level. So by accomplishing tasks, you get bounties, and there's some bonuses. So we all welcome you if you're a coder or not. To get together, form teams, and see who wins. Back to you.
All right, now that we're on. So my presentation is about the future of WET. Codefest 2013 was awesome. It was great, and it was really, really cool to be part of it. And now it's 2014, the next year. So as people know, WET has been evolving over the years, Corinne said to it, and it's been probably one of the most exciting, challenging projects I've ever been part of. But like everything else, movement forward is even more exciting. So before I get into the details, a little bit about me. I've been contributing to WET for about 4 years, fantastic 4 years. I do a lot of extensive work with open source frameworks. My handle, Master B, you probably see me, if you do a search on Google, apparently I'm getting quite, I'm all over the place in many different open source projects, which is kind of an ambition of mine. Definitely an active member. I do a lot of admin work for the jQuery group, for also some Modernizer group. Okay, Modernizer and other well, Nope and other kind of open source projects, and definitely have a lot of fun with that. Learn a lot as well. The reason why, more importantly, because for me, I've always been a true believer that the internet is what you give back to it. I mean, I started beginning my background is actually economics, ironically enough, and what ended up happening was I got involved in web at a very young age in my career. And I actually saw a lot of potential in it. And the one thing that I was amazed about with web was that the resources were there to be found and people were willing to help. And since, for me, I've kind of continued that. I've followed the open source community. I was always baffled with how much I could, I didn't know much about something, and I would ask a question, and there'd be 30 people that would answer me, and I'd be like, wow, this is an amazing concept. So this is how I've kind of followed that, where I make it an honest goodness try to give back as much as I take from the internet. So, where's WET today? 3,200 commits under the hood. Wow, that's a lot of changes. 50 plus plugins and features. Actually, since I've been around for a few years during WET, I mean, that number always seems to amaze me, because I remember back in the days predecessor to WET, when we started with a template, I think we started with a total of 3. It's quite impressive when you look at 50 plus plugins today. A strong focus on accessibility and performance. This has always been, accessibility, I think everybody can agree, has always been paramount to WET, but the performance has been the later push over from 3 to 4, which has been an amazing kind of challenge, I guess, from a developer standpoint. backed by solid UX principles and rigor. Love the UX guys. I can't stress enough. I can honestly say I'm a developer. Boy, please don't ask me to do any UX design. Woof. So the fact that they've come and joined on board has made this such a unique experience. I'm learning every day. Thank you, UX people in the room. And a larger community than before. I can't, I'm always amazed when me and Paul are up at wee hours of the morning, you know, answering questions or doing code commits or code review. Yes, you guys probably know that I am up at freakish hours in the morning. I love it that much. I'm always amazed to see how many people and members we have and how many active contributions we actually do have in here. So it just keeps growing. It's a fantastic, fantastic experience. So what have we learned? Web is always evolving. I think that to me was probably the first biggest, I guess, realization when I started getting onto web. Nothing is ever static. First day you solve a problem, you think, oh, this is it, I've got it, the ultimate solution. Tomorrow someone writes it better. It's an amazing environment to be in because actually it does have this kind of progressive feel where you're always constantly learning. But at the same time, it does pose challenges for a lot of enterprises and stuff because you can imagine change is great. Recoding and rebuilding and adapting all the time can be a very costly experience. Never just one thing, never just one way of doing things on the web. That actually is a model for Perl programmers, which was one of my core competencies. And the web really speaks to that. Nowadays, we're getting more and more solutions, more and more frameworks, more and more ways to do the same thing. Which one, it becomes more of a race to find out which is a better fit and which is the smartest choice. Accessibility is both a challenge and a reward. I was waiting for the in the crowd. Really? Reward? I definitely know back in the YKEG 1 days, in the earlier days, accessibility was always kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, but I want my website to look so cool. I want this running man to swoosh across it. What? What do you mean we can't do this? Accessibility historically has come across as one of those things that have been like, oh, we can't make things pretty. We can't make things fun. We've got to turn around and actually make it kind of static and monotone. This is what WET actually has shown me over the past year. That's not true. This is the reward. I actually found it really interesting in learning in my career that accessibility now actually, yes, it's there. There are some parts you can't get into and some cool new features, but it actually shows you a different way people manage that information. It actually shows you a different way to view it. We have a tendency as developers to actually be very focused on, oh, here's what the page looks like. And designers have a tendency to say, I want this to look just like this. It's that other side, the people that don't see it that way. Interesting enough, mobile devices, things like this. So accessibility actually can be a reward, and this is what WET is really, or at least I am trying to produce, and I know the WET community has been really working with that, hence WET 4 and all this great goodness. User-centered design is not just about looking good. I learned that. That was new for me. I really didn't know that. Once again, I kind of put them on the spot, and I really do speak a lot about the UX people. That is exactly right. It was, for me, it was really interesting because user-centered design was a real exciting piece to it. That was kind of, they kept showing me that, yeah, that's fine. You can have a widget, you can have all these cool features, and yeah, we can make it look fancy and snazzy and go swoosh. But believe it or not, actually, if you actually do it this way, or you actually make it in a way that's usable and practical, people will actually interact with it more often. So it was a really, user-centered design was a really interesting kind of learning curve for me. Crowdsourcing helps to drive innovation. Look around, look at this room. This is innovation in itself. Crowdsourcing has been a fantastic experience. It definitely taught me how to write better. Yeah, there's a few people that are going to laugh. Yeah, I caught him at midnight. Yeah, you should see this guy write. So yes, it definitely, crowdsourcing was really, really exciting. And it does help drive innovation simply because in the past 4 years with WET, I can't speak enough to some of the contributions that have actually come in from open source parties, from private sector, even from within government, which is kind of exciting. So, Wet 4, what does it give us? Mobile first approach, reusable templates and plugins, better performance, and some really cool uses of upcoming and emerging technologies. I think Cohen spoke to that, and you'll probably see that through the breakout sessions. So, looking into the future, but so what's ahead? You know, Mario Wet 4 is fantastic. It does so much already. So what's next? Sorry, I had to plug in Back to the Future. Big Back to the Future buff. Anyway, web animations, open plugin architecture, new synchronization layer, and streamlining the core. So, web animations. Basically what happens in WET right now, as it stands, we generally are moving away and trying to leverage some newer technologies to actually do animations that swoosh and that fun and that kind of exciting dynamic feel to a page without relying on some older JavaScript type technologies, which have a harder time for mobile devices. This is where we've already started to explore some of these benefits. You see them in the carousel plugin, you see them even in the web feed widgets to some degree. We're starting to move into using CSS and other technologies to try to better leverage that. Obviously, everyone can agree, the upside to that is obviously more performance and smoother kind of animations that are running across mobile devices. And one thing that actually is coming out of just the kind of work that we're doing already, it's generally less complex in terms of code. Some of the technologies that we are using to drive a lot of these cool animations that are there, the play button, the woo, the spinning wheels, and all this stuff, actually do get very complex. So now that we're actually trying to use CSS and other kind of technologies that are a lot thinner, we're finding that people are actually jumping on board a little better and actually saying, hey, I can really work with this. This makes sense. Repurpose and reuse. Open plugin architecture. The one thing that you probably may see, the latest example would be in the web feed widget. There's an example there where we're actually bringing in Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, and we're putting it behind a nice tabbed interface. This is the open plugin architecture that's going to be the focus for WET moving forward. We're going to actually try to start really leveraging blending existence components in. The existing components that we have are really kind of already very modular, per se. But now we're actually starting to drive them and actually show examples on how to blend those in to actually solve more problems. Obviously, this is going to enable innovative, makes it easier for developers to customize and build upon WET. I think that's pretty, I mean, it does become pretty self-explanatory in the sense that we can actually bring in different pieces together to solve a problem. And the interesting part is by making more application-friendly methods. Pieces or functionality or features. This kind of open plugin architecture we're going to be exploring is going to look at and actually try to leverage it better for applications moving forward. My personal favorite, new synchronization layer. The addition of an established open source library called Backbone. So basically we're bringing one of the things that WET is really have is that talking back to servers and kind of that discussion between applications and actual platforms back and forth. So WET is basically a framework, and it's its own little presentation layer that connects more, I guess, standard. This is the new synchronization layer. We're going to be working on actually turning around and giving it a full, robust synchronization layer, so actual applications, even static pages, even different sources, different platforms, and start communicating with the presentation layer almost attached. Streamlining the core. I don't think I can speak enough of this. We did it for WET 4, WET 3, all these other exercises. The big thing that we want to do is kind of keep looking at ways to condense and compress the actual already existing 80% optimization, which I think is amazing. There's always room for improvement, so we're definitely going to be streamlining the core. We're going to be looking at different approaches on how to rewrite the core moving forward. This will actually allow us to better extend certain functionality. We definitely, by obviously increasing the performance, well, by decreasing the download size and increased performance, we're going to get that. And we're going to be looking also at different flexibility models. Currently as it stands, WET is very modular, it's very extensible, but there has been comments that have popped up throughout with the open source community about, wouldn't it be great if I can off and build a whole plugin or a wrap features to make it almost a little bit more plug and play. Allow people to actually just have a presentation layer. They can just connect all their platforms to it and actually have this wonderful little web experience. So, how to get involved? Step one, we're all here. That's a good start. We're definitely holding code sprints. Some people may know about them, people will not, but they're actually weekly kind of breakout sessions that we have devoted for the day. We have departments, and thank you for the departments, D&D and others as well, Service Canada and stuff that host them. And basically, you just bring a laptop, and we generally offer Wi-Fi, and just come on in there and sit with us and kind of work on certain common problems, or actually learn a little bit more about GitHub. I think that speaks for itself. WET is based in GitHub, so we definitely need a GitHub account. And breakout sessions we do have are going to be really focused towards the developer. Some of them, there's others that are in some of these. We have some great ones off the architect. And also possibly really cool like web components and so forth. We can actually make this probably also about the synchronization layers and the compatibilities that we're going to probably see in the upcoming 2 or 3 releases. All right. Did I shrink that down enough? Oh, I did? Sorry, they had me shrink it, so. We're all good?
Oh, that's it, okay. Now. Okay, now see Mario. If Mario has piqued your interest, please join him tomorrow afternoon in room 314, which is just across the hall in this building. 314 in the afternoon. I think it's at 3 o'clock. You'll have to check the schedule on codefest.io. Mario has definitely piqued my interest, and when he pointed down there or looked down there and said, wow, those UXers, they're pretty crazy, and they've taught me a thing or two, you thought he was looking at me, but he wasn't. He was looking at my next speaker, Lisa Fast, from Neo Insight. With over 25 years of experience, she has conducted more than 500 usability test sessions. To WET. You can see her all over GitHub with issues and comments and long debates long into the morning with Paul and Mario and Thomas and others, I'm sure. I'm very pleased that she's here at GTech. An absolute pleasure to have her here today. I also want to debate with you about whether or not UXers are techies, because Lisa has a master's in computer science in addition to her 25 years of experience. So she has the ideal profile to be a leader in our field and a leader on WET. Are you ready? Okay, well then I'm going to get off the stage and I'm going to let Lisa talk about building usability into design. Thank you, Lisa Fast.
Thanks, Laura. It's a real thrill to be here today because the very first Codefest, I think I sat at a table with about 6 people, and we were excited then, and we were collaborating. And Madame Charette was right about the way innovation comes from a team. And this is a really passionate, committed team, And I think they're doing, and I think they're doing terrific things for the citizens of Canada. And that's one of the reasons I've been involved. Whenever I'm tempted to go work on corporate work, I kind of go, oh, look at all the difference this makes. And it's really terrific. So I'm really pleased to be here. I tweet at NeoInsight, and that's also the GitHub handle that I've been using. And no, I don't tend to be up late in the night on GitHub. At Carleton for a bunch of years in the psychology department doing research. And I think we missed the talk. It's the time to get out your crinkly wrappers and turn your cell phones off. I think we missed that. So, all right. So usability is something special, and later Ben's going to talk about the wider range of research that can guide building these websites that citizens need. But a kind of smaller kind of thing, and it's about being able to do what you came to do. Okay? So as Mario said, it's not just about looking good. You can look good and do what you came to do. Sometimes you don't look as good. And today I'm going to really focus in on just a few things that you can do to make your sites work well in terms of people being able to do what they came to do. Now, what are those things that you might come to do, right? We work with Jerry McGovern, and he's our international partner. He's coming back October 30th, by the way. And Jerry has a real focus on top tasks. And these are some of the top tasks of Canadians, right, on Canada.ca. They come to renew their passport. They don't come to do anything else at that time. They're really busy. They're intent on renewing their passport. They're not coming to do this, right? And in fact, you use different technology to do this than to do something. So the web is about doing. It's not about looking. You can look good, but you need some different technology. And what I'm going to talk about is understanding a little bit about the human technology. Okay? So you guys all know CSS and maybe JavaScript, and you're coding away in all sorts of languages. I want to talk a little bit about the person, the actual human being on the other end of that has technology, requirements, and constraints of their own. Okay? And let's talk about that first one. The first one is perception. Okay? And it's what we notice. Human beings have these finely tuned perception systems that are really kind of built up over evolution when we had to notice the lion, right, in the grass. And we're really great at pattern matching, and we really want to use this in our work. So say you're on a website, and you're applying to be a federal skilled worker, and you've got to look through this list and find the software engineering role. And that's hard to do, right? Just look at that, like, whoops, no patterns to see. But there are these things called Gestalt principles that psychologists have derived that allow us to make patterns out of things. And one of those is just by introducing some space, we suddenly see patterns that we didn't see before. Right? Now this is probably obvious. You're going, well, of course, like putting things close together to each other makes a difference when you're presenting things on the web. It makes it easier for people to see the patterns. So this is one of these Gestalt principles that have been derived and understood by psychologists for hundreds of years, and that things close together are perceived as groups. So this idea of things as groups is really important on the web because people work really quickly. In some of those usability tests that I've been watching, and we did 54 sessions on Canada.ca with mobile, with screen reader users, and they are just going clickety click 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 click, right? Like they look at the page for seconds, right? And it's really quite amazing. So they really need to use these parts of their brain. Here's another principle. Something should be jumping out at you right now, right? And that is another principle that our brains use called similarity, okay? And similarity means that our eyes pick up on things that are similar. And here I used color to do that, right? But so you're starting to see the layers building up, and that principle of similarity is really important, and we use it a lot in our CSS, right? It's the reason that all links used to be blue, right? They don't have to be as much anymore, but it is the reason that that happens, because our brains clue into that and we use that, right? Here's another way, and it's called a closed region. And I see Paul smiling because this has been a bit of a tough year for me and this Gestalt principle of closed regions. And let's just call them boxes, right? And I've called them maybe expletive boxes. But you can see right away that when you build and enclose a common region around things, they get a pattern that really stands out and that really makes our brain work with those things, all right? So right away, anything in that closed region is a group, right? And you can quickly see, too, that just changing what gets a group and what doesn't makes a big difference, right? So before I had two boxes, now I got just one. So that one thing is the grouped, and all the rest of the things, even with the other Gestalt principles in action, are now more of a group together. So it's pulling those things away from the others. Okay, so that's common region, and boy, do we use it a lot on the web in design, right? There are boxes upon boxes upon boxes on our websites, and it's probably a little overused. And the other thing is it's dangerous, right? And we're going to talk about that a little more today, because I want you to take away at the end of this, you're going to be going, I'm going to use those boxes really carefully. Because, and this is from Susan Weinschenk's terrific book, watch what happens with the way you can use those boxes. So think about what you're seeing now, and think about what you're seeing now, right? Big difference in the meaning that you just took away from those two designs with just a bit of color and a box. Now you're probably all using boxes indiscriminately, and we're going to talk a little more and see an example in an actual usability test of how that works. And I want you, the other message you're going to be taking away is, boy, when you test with real users, you really learn a lot. Okay? So what you're going to see is a brief video clip of some participants on a particular website in the Government of Canada, and I'm not picking on them. There's lots of sites that have these issues, and you'll see a few others later. Okay, so here it goes. You should hear the audio as it starts. Let's go on now and actually apply. So that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to apply. She's going to apply for the Career Focus program.
So I see complete application package consists of application form.
Now it's not just the box.
I go down here, reporting forms, but that's not that. I don't know where to. Maybe I'm just, okay. Oh, here, how to apply. Then we must be sure that you're eligible for the criteria.
You should be starting to feel sorry for her too, right? I want you to feel empathy. You've probably been in this position. And now she's going to make the wrong choice.
It must be here, these two.
Okay.
Application intake.
No, it's not that.
How to apply application package. Okay, apply. Sure. Okay, it would really be nice if these headings here would be hyperlinked.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to application package and it says, okay, you must have a completed form, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, okay, where the heck do I find those buttons?
He said suckers, by the way. Okay, watch his
Well,
cursor.
that's here.
You got it. Got it. Okay. This person's already been looking for a few minutes.
So I suspect I would have to send an email to this Churros at Agriculture Canada and ask for an application package from them.
Okay. All the way back to the top.
So I'm helping him
Gray
find it.
box over to the side.
Oh yeah, apply online.
Yeah, that's the one.
It doesn't exactly jump out at you.
No, it doesn't.
Well, it would seem to me that it would be very easy to put a link in there, you know, under the part that says I will apply.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I hope you're feeling some sympathy for the team. They knew that this was a tricky decision, and you know they didn't do anything too wacky, right? Whoops, can't walk over there. You know, they put it in the box on the right. That's pretty normal. But if you were watching that cursor, you could see that there were some Gestalt principles in action, right? There was proximity. If you were looking, they were looking in the center of the page, right? That's where people look. That's where people expect. And those things were all close together, right? There was similarity in action here because those things all look the same. The table of contents, they kept coming back up to it, going back down, coming back up, going down, right? And finally, the common region, right? So when this stuff had been put into a box, it was separated from the rest of the stuff on the page, right? So it was no longer part of what they were doing. And that's the real message I want to give you. When the things are in the box, they're separate from the other things, okay? So let's go to another site. You're going to find out if your clam digging beach is safe, right? This is actually really important, particularly in BC. If you go out, I see a nodding head, if you go out and dig clams when red tide has been there or other biotoxins, you can get sick and die. So it's actually pretty important that you get this right. And on this page, you can take a look and just see where's the link you click to find out if your current beach right now is safe. And if you approach this the way users did and clicking along, you might not see the thing in the red box, right? And in fact, we ran this test and a lot of people did not click the link that's in the top red box. And why didn't they? It's because it's not part of the page, because they were looking on the page. That's where their attention was, and they didn't look at that link in the top red. In fact, some of them went to the next link down, which happens to go to just some blah, blah, blah about how dangerous red tide is, right? And how sick you'll get. Well, yeah, I know, time to help me out here, right? So 43% success rate for this task, right? And it's not all related to this particular problem, but the box is separating the content from the page. Okay, so perception is one thing. So I shared a few Gestalt principles that I want you to remember: proximity, similarity, common region. And now we're going to talk about attention, right? Because attention is what we focus on. And it's a really fundamental player in this mix of our brains working on tasks, okay? So what we're going to do, there's going to be another little video. And before this, I want you to think, and I'll just get a show of hands, how good are you at noticing something unexpected? This is actually going to be a fairly famous experiment. Don't blurt it out if you already know it, but something unexpected is going to happen. And I want you to predict for me, oh no, I won't get you to raise your hands. Will you notice something unexpected? How good are you, right, at noticing something unexpected? So just keep it in your mind. Give yourself a probability rating on this. And let's go.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball.
That's your task. Count how many times the players in white pass the ball. Not going to be very long, don't worry. Okay, so I could tell some.
The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game?
The new twist.
Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion. Learn more about this illusion and the original gorilla experiment at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
Okay, so that's why I asked you to think ahead of time whether how good you are at understanding about seeing the unexpected things. 50%, as he said, don't usually see it. And the reason they made this new video is to catch all of you who've seen the gorilla video before in Psych 101 or something, because it's a very famous experiment. And it really talks to how attention is a limited resource, right? Just like your CPU processors and your memory are all limited, well, so's attention, right? And we really don't see the world as if we've got a videotape player running in our heads, behind our eyes. That's not how the world works. And it's really important to look at the tasks on the web in terms of that kind of limited field of attention. Now, I asked you whether you thought you'd notice that, right? Usually about 75% of people think they're going to notice something unexpected. So there's a little disjunction there, right? Because only 50% really do. Now, here's my take on it. 100% of web designers think you'll see everything. Absolutely. And you know what? They also think you're going to read it all. Every single word, right? Really, you're going to read hardly anything. You're going to read just the links. You're going to read just the words that you're looking for. And you are so not going to see some of those things that they think you're going to see. And the other thing to remember is that when you click one of those links, you're gone, right? You're not looking at that whole page anymore, that people maybe designed as a static page. They designed it on paper, and they look at the whole thing, and they forget that with a little phone, I'm only going to see this much, and I'm going to be scrolling, and it's going to go by, and I'm not going to see the thing at the top when I'm down in how to apply, right? So really important to think about those eyes and that attention. And I want you to take away that attention is an illusion, right? We have these illusions about attention, lots of them, and we focus on what's expected. And where does what's expected come from on the web? It comes from our previous experience with web pages, right? So if you go all wacky and make a page that follows no web conventions, you'll pay a price, right? Because we won't be able to apply any of those things we expect, right? That doesn't mean there's not room for innovation, but it's really important to keep those in mind. Okay, so in this scenario here, there was perception at work, but there was also attention. People were focused on the center of the page to do their task. That's where people look. The next step of the task has to be in the center, and if you put it in a box, you will take it out of the center. Okay? So here's another example of a task. This one's on a mobile device, and the participant's task here was to contact their MP. Okay? And you just see what you know, and they're going to search. He's just going to mutter along.
Dans ce cas-là, j'utiliserai le moteur de recherche ici avec député.
So typing in député. I don't know how well you can see that. He's typing in député. There's the search results.
J'imagine que ça s'en va sur le site d'Élections Canada.
Okay. So you chuckled. Did you see the box? I have to admit, I did not even see this box myself. right? I went back and I thought, gee, aren't there any promotions in this search system? Like, yeah, there doesn't seem to be. I had not seen it myself, right? That box that went by. You can see it up there now. It doesn't show that well on the video because it's blue, but there is a box there. And it separated the content of the search results, right? So people's eyes went straight down to the search results because that's where they expect to find search results, is in the things that look like search results. And by putting it in a box above them, they actually reduced the likelihood that people would see that, right? Now, it was totally done with good intentions, right? It's the box brings attention, right? But it doesn't if that's not where they expect to look. It becomes a gorilla, right? So next time you're going to put a box in, you go, wait, is this a gorilla box? Right? Am I going to end up with my webpage on the stage at Codefest 2015? Right? My God! Right? So you really want to think about where are people looking, right, when they do these things. Their eyes went directly to the search results and off they went. Now I have to admit that the wording used in the box wasn't the finest either, but anyway, I do want to show an example of boxes that do work. All right, so this is a great example of a box that works. The task that people had here was to find out about the changes in the rules. And here, you can see that box. Again, I'm sorry, I don't think it's blue. You can't see it that well here. On my screen, it looks fabulous. But it's bright blue, and actually people noticed it really well because why? Because it's in the content of the page, right? So it's in a place where they're looking, where their eyes are going, where they expect to look to see something. And it's actually, and part of the point, it's in the page, it's even below the title, right? If it was above the title, you'd be at higher risk of it not working, right? But this worked really well. So I'm not saying don't use boxes ever. Don't take that message away. Just don't use gorilla boxes, right? Put them where people expect. So what to do, right? Be careful with boxes, right? They have really strong impacts on what people see and what people don't see, okay? Recognize that you have illusions about attention, right? We human beings focus in our attention on things and recognize that you have illusions about that, right? And think about that gorilla, right? Now you can challenge your illusions. I really, really love this site. It's so terrific. I've been on the other side of the usability design test myself, right? Being the person, the designer in the background going, no, click that, right? No, they don't. Anyway, so whichtest1.com, terrific. You can sign up for a free email every week and they'll send you an A/B test result and you get to vote on which one you think won the test, right? So it's a little more conversion and payment related, but you can learn a lot about how our minds work and what people see on a web page. Okay, so whichtest1.com, fantastic for challenging your illusions, including the illusion that you're the greatest UX designer or researcher in the world, because I get them wrong sometimes. So that's a really good thing to do. Learn a little, okay? The most wonderful book on this topic is Don't Make Me Think, right? Thinking is part of attention. It's a precious resource as well. And we try not to, right? The more we have to think, the more it kind of pisses us off, right? You know, the people on that page who were going, well, how to apply? You know, they were really having to think and they were getting annoyed, right? And that's because our brains use a lot of energy. And we unconsciously try and avoid using up too much, right? Otherwise we have to eat even more, right? So anyway, Don't Make Me Think is a fantastic book, right? And you can just chip away at it, and learn a heck of a lot about these kind of things. And finally, the most important thing, even if you don't do the other three things, right, is test, right? So test with people. Now, you don't have to hire us and do a big study. There are lots of ways and lots of terrific teams in the government who are finding ways to do it faster, cheaper, better. And in fact, you can just take your piece of paper, your paper prototype out and walk down the hall, right? If that is one heck of a lot better, right? Way better. Them around, ask someone, and make sure to frame it in the context of a task, right? You're trying to apply for a fishing license. What would you click, right? So there's lots of great ways to test. I know that the Canada.ca team and all the teams in government are using online tools a lot, like TreeJack. You might have done some of these on the site lately. So they are fantastic tools for picking up keywords and designing a structure. Really great. Again, you see that task there. What are people there to do? We've used balsamic prototypes, right? Fantastic way to get quick prototypes up that people can interact with on the web and you can test out your ideas. So all of these ways are really wonderful. And finally, if you're designing an interactive service that's part of those web applications that Madame Charette was talking about, think about prototyping them on something really fast and easy like Fluid Surveys, right? Or SurveyMonkey. Actually, they bought Fluid Surveys, so whatever. But I recently worked with a team on a quite big project to prototype and in an agile project to build up a big application system. And we prototyped it almost all on Fluid Surveys. I could get like questions going, interactive questions, changing the design, picking out the boxes or not, in lots of ways. So there are wonderful tools out there so that you can test. It's kind of like carpentry, right? Measure twice, cut once, right? This saves you a lot of time and effort later because usability is measurable. And we are out there measuring the success of tasks on government sites and trying to improve it. Right? So if you're getting a success rate of 60%, we're going to be coming back and you're going to be getting pressure to improve that to make sure that people can do what they came to do. So to build usability into your designs, test them. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Who else learned a lot in this presentation? This is why we're so happy to have her in our community. The examples you've shown using our own processes, our own application, that's invaluable. And I'm really, really looking forward to be working more. And I hope all of you are going to come and say hello and discuss some of your experience and really benefit from our experience. Now we're going to be taking a 15 minutes break. And we have a very special guest when you come back. So come back here by 10:45. We'll see you then.